Um, I'm feeling excited.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm feeling worried, especially about future, but also pretty. It's good to have some time off. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Who else? Anyone else?
Hi Vivek, this is Pramit. Uh,
Hi, Pramit.
I'm good. I'm feeling better, and also I'm feeling hopeful that things might turn around normal.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Meera.
Actually, I don't know whether it's how it is related, but I can't fall asleep. Even 3 hours, that's it. I sleep issues.
Okay. Okay. No one else? Shall we proceed? Okay. Since nobody is talking, I think we are a small group. Meera, Suruchi, Namita, Yashwant, Dheeraj, Kshitij. Okay. So my next thing is, what's the one question that keeps you awake? Of course, Meera is not getting sleep, but what about the others? Is there something that is keeping you awake? You are concerned, some of you are worried, some of you are excited, somebody said. Is there a question that needs answering this evening? It will be great if Vivek answered my question. And the question is, do you have a question?
Hi Vivek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Kshiti. I am an alumnus of Ashoka University, and I've had the privilege of being a Mother Teresa Fellow as an alumnus. So essentially, I think what keeps me awake, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know that this is true for a lot of my colleagues and counterparts as well, is what's happening to the poor, how are migrant workers, landless laborers coping with this situation, what are the kinds of initiatives that are being taken to support them. I am personally helping fundraise for some civil society organizations because I feel like this is the least that I can do during this time. But what's actually keeping me awake is the fact that the government's response or the lack of preparedness in terms of the economic implications to the marginalized has been quite disturbing. So that's the one question that's really keeping me awake. And I also feel that over time, people are losing empathy, or they're having some sort of a burnout with respect to caring, and being concerned. Like, this has become the new normal, that people have lost their livelihoods, don't have access to food. So actually what's keeping me awake is the fact that people are now disconnecting from what's happening, or that's how I feel. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of this time in India. So that's essentially my comment / question to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Kshiti. Anyone else? Is there a question?
What keeps me anxious, though whatever the previous person spoke about is relatable, but I think my fears are a little more selfish.
Sure.
The last 1 year I spent trying to find myself and intern and understand the job market after graduating from Ashoka, and I wanted to do a lot of things, from music to writing, and I couldn't just monetize those immediately. I needed to build skills. So I worked part-time, I interned, and I thought this year 2020 would be when I'll start a proper job. And I had certain 2-3 organizations in mind. I had my foot in the door, I was in the right networks. But obviously, because of the lockdown and the recession that's about to hit us, or has already, whatever,
Sure.
I don't think that I, even no matter how great my application is or whatever, like, it's just not in my control anymore.
Sure.
And a part of me was super scared and heartbroken, because this gave me certainty, but a part of me is also glad that, okay, now I can just work on my projects, like what I want to do, like my writing and my music. But just not knowing what I really want to do, how, if it can be done or not, like, for an already uncertain person who's figuring it out, who has too much on her plate and just trying to balance so many things, it's extremely anxiety provoking. Because at least that one thing I had certain for myself, that okay, I'll do this, but now I can't do that, so I had to pivot immediately to my other things. And just that constantly trying to pivot to the other thing, if this isn't working, is getting really exhausting, like I can't do it anymore. I mean,
Thanks, Anupriya.
yeah, thank you.
Is
Um,
that
yeah, so I am relatively younger to everyone who's spoken before. I'm a first year at Ashoka. So my anxiety is not is more, I don't know, pertaining to the fact that I have so much to do in terms of that's expected of me. So I'm not supposed to go out of the graduation market. I have classes to do, and there are like internships expected and stuff like that. But at the same time, I want to contribute to the pandemic that's happening, because I'm obviously concerned about all the displaced workers, but also people who are going through like cases of increased like domestic violence and stuff like that, because they're in different environments and are forced to be in such environments. So how can I then help out, given the limited resources that I have, and as a student at my age?
Yep. Anyone else? If you have a different thing to tell, I can understand what Anupriya had to say, what Kshiti had to say. Is there a third or another dimension to your questions? If your questions are the same or similar, then we'll probably not, I would request you not to state them. Then I would just imagine that. I think the two things kind of sum it up. Actually, the three things sum it up. Anna's point of, how do I contribute? How do I stay safe and contribute? Anupriya's point that, I don't know where my career is going. And Kshiti's point, society is becoming in a particular way. Workers are not, we don't know how migrant workers are being dealt with. We're getting some, news, but is that enough? Does it cover the entire dimension of the situation? No, it doesn't. If you look at it, news is mostly datelined big cities. We are hearing about Bombay and Pune, but we don't know what's happening in Sangli, Satara, where the workers are actually, where the workers are actually placed. We are hearing about Ahmedabad and Surat, but we don't know what's happening in Bhuj and Kutch, what's happening with the, marginalized communities of the coastal areas in Gujarat. We don't know about the salt pan workers. So there's lots that we don't know about. So the question is, So then the question is, what do the present times represent? As I think Anupriya said, what do they present for me? I think I will kind of confine myself to the situation vis-a-vis myself. And probably Kshiti, I may not be able to, what's happening around us, I think we all know it. Do I have a special take on it? Do I want to kind of, talk about, NDA government versus UPA government? I don't know. I think that conversation can just go on. I don't know where it will land. But I think the most important thing is, how do I deal with it? How do I personalize it? And then, of course, how do you deal with it? How do you contribute? Whether by raising funds or by, making calls to elders. I think that's pretty much, your own lookout. But I think what is important, what COVID has kind of, brought to the center is, being safe, being personally safe. At least, except in, very special situations. I've never felt fear. But, this is probably the first time in our lives that, we've experienced fear as a society, as a community, as a block of housing in which I live, as a community in South Delhi, as a citizenship of India, as a citizenship of the planet. I think this phenomena has been quite unusual, and we are clearly not trained for it. So I think, how do I stay safe? How much safe is safe? Do I stay in lockdown 100%? Do I stay in the lockdown 99%? In that 1%, what is allowed? Can I walk around my house? Can I walk in the community lawns? Can I go on the road? I think there are lots of kind of mental games that we are having to play to find out, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. While, there's a superstructure, there is the Arogya Setu app, there is the containment zones. You live in a containment zone, it's one thing. I was talking to a friend who can't stir out of the house, can't step out of the gate because he's in the vicinity of he's in a containment zone. So I think we are experiencing a lot of things, a lot of new things. So therefore, I think, I don't know. I really don't know. What is the most important thing? I want to contribute is the beautiful person that I am as a 25-year-old, as you are, as Anna, first year, and Kshiti graduated, last year or last year, what I can't remember what she said. But, this is your old self. You want to contribute. But how do you contribute? And what do you contribute? In the good old days, there was a fire, there was an, you just went and, supported some people. Of course, you didn't fight the fire. For that, there were the fire tenders and the firefighters. But then you supported, in the vicinity, you made sure that, people were taken care of. There was a phenomena, you went out and protested and, you celebrated Balakot or you protested Balakot. I don't know, depending on, your personal ideologies. But I think what is important today is to recontract with yourself. I think in the last 40 days, the question that I've been asking, and I don't think lot of us have given a very, at least I have not found a great answer to it. But how do I recontract with life? Let's say from June, July, August. I think that itself is a significant question, whether I want to contribute or whether I want to look for a job. I think that question itself, I think it requires a certain degree of personal reflection, because Anupriya, you have a very valid point. I mean, the job doesn't exist for you in all likelihood. So therefore, how do you exist? As you said, how do I pivot? See, the conventional wisdom, and I was looking at something that a wise old man, and I've personally been a very action-oriented person. And a long time ago, a wise old man told me, when there's a storm around us, you shouldn't be flaying your arms and, moving all your limbs and, breathing too hard and kind of, tiring yourself out. When there's a storm, stay quiet, stay put. Because in a storm, oftentimes the storm doesn't kill you. It's the fact that you are in this hyperactivity mode. I want to save myself. I want to save the others. But really the storm also takes you somewhere. The storm is going somewhere. The current storm is going somewhere. How will you negotiate post the storm? I think that is a big question. Rather than, my proclivity to want to do some things, to kind of, go and attack a problem. Of course, do those things. Of course, raise the money, worry about the lack of sensitivity that people are expressing and experiencing. Read what Pratap Bhanu Mehta and others have to say. But besides that, I think it's a very personal issue. How do I exist post-COVID? Now, I don't know, post-COVID is going to be 17th May onwards or 1st June onwards or 1st July onwards or 1st December onwards. I really don't know. We really don't know enough. Scientists don't know enough. Politicians are taking decisions without knowing enough. What's his name? Everyone loves a good drought. What's his name? The author?
P. Sainath.
P. Sainath. So P. Sainath said, I think a week, 10 days ago, that the next time the thalis will be, next time thali bajegi because of food rights. It's not going to be because of to celebrate COVID warriors and so on and so forth. That's a fact of life. The point is, how do I conserve myself? Am I also going to be part of the food rights? Am I going to be reporting the food rights? Am I going to be contributing to the food rights? I mean, where do I locate myself? I think it's not a selfish question. It's a very personal question. How do you locate yourself in the times to come? Truth be told, situation is really bad. I've seen, the creme de la creme, the Harvard Business School guys, have somewhere on social media, I was reading, they've said, give us internships at least, help us. I mean, the language has changed. the tonality has changed. They're saying, what are they saying? So they're saying, support HBS talent. Now that is, support us with internships if you don't have a job. So I think that kind of sums it. For the creme de la creme, support us with internships if you don't have a job to offer. I think that's a good sign of the times for young people like you. And I would say I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to what are the 7 things that you should do. Probably if you, for me, there's only one word, and that word is resilience. How do you stay resilient during this phase? How do you build your resilience muscle during this phase? Because the fact is that bad times are not forever. My favorite algorithm is that in a bad year, 15 days, in a really bad year, 65 days are bad. In the average bad year, 15 days are bad and 350 days are good. But even in the really bad year, 65 days are bad, 300 days are good. But I think this is going to be unusual. This is going to be, sort of, when I was growing up in college, there was nearly a year when exams did not take place in Punjab because of the Operation Blue Star in '84. And that was called a 0 year. But they actually never ended up making it a 0 year. They did conduct the exams finally, some semblance of exams. So it didn't end up being a 0 year. But I think this year is going to be a kind of a 0 year. So then how do you therefore monetize the 0 year? Monetize, again, I think you cannot monetize. It's a language from the pre-COVID era. How do you live through the 0 year? And I'm not saying live through the minimum living through the 0 year. How do you maximum live through the 0 year? So how do you become resilient for 2021 to 2022? Because I will believe your, Gopinath of IMF, although I don't know why I should. She's saying that, this year economy is going to be subpar, and next year Indian economy is going to be at what, 6.5, I think? It's going to grow at 6.5. So which means that अच्छे दिन आ रहे हैं अगले साल. I don't know. Is that going to be true? How true it's going to be? What's the nature of अच्छे दिन going to be? But net, if 22 is going to be better than 2021, then I think 2021 is the year to work on myself. No, what can you do in this year? What do you think you can do in this year that grows, that develops you intellectually, emotionally, physically? What should you be doing? What can you do? Any answers? Quickly, not long sentences. I will do X. I will do Y. Don't tell me why you will do Y. Just tell me I'll do X. Can I have a vox pop again? Unmute, please.
I'll produce music, write, and build my own social media writing channel or business or engagement platform. I've always wanted to do that. That's all I wanted to do since 2 years.
Okay. Others?
Mindfulness, meditation, and learning. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Anyone else? Anyone else? PB, Meera, Soumya, Prakhar, Shreya, Yashant, Anagha, anyone? Ashwin. How do I occupy my next year? Any suggestions? Okay, no suggestions.
Hi.
Hi, Shreya.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing since actually Jan end itself has been the fact that I've been following the pandemic, and I don't know, others may differ here, and it's very different for different people based on their state of mind. But I think following the situation and trying to understand it really helps ease down the panic and misinformation and all the disinformation that comes in. And it also prepares to kind of keep going and be patient with yourself, with the people, with the government itself. And I think that's how I plan for my, like, for me, the rest of the year is just about
Sure.
understanding this and keep building on my strengths and skills on the professional and academic front.
Sure.
Hi, good evening. I'm a third year undergrad at Ashoka. Right now, all I can think of is, be sane for the next 10 days and see what's going to happen next. And after that, the plan was for a year or two, just see what I really want to do in life by taking up a job that I have, and then figure out whether it's the academia that I would like to return, or is it something else that I would like to explore. Yeah.
Sure.
Hi, Soumya here. I've actually started doing some amount of journaling, which is something I've been meaning to do for the last 2 years. And it's actually helped me a lot with my anxiety and just to make sense of things. So I think that's something I, want to continue doing.
Sure. So guys, I mean, the good thing in these times is, I think you guys are fairly smart. I think my generation will take all the credit for all the wrong that we did did to the planet, with the planet. I think we will have to take credit for that, for all the wrongs that are happening around us. But I think one credit that we take is to have created such a beautiful generation, such a smart generation of young people. Really, the smartest in my generation were not so smart. I think you guys have a kind of a sense of where you are headed, what you ought to be doing. What I'm hearing is great stuff, whether it is to do with, mindfulness and meditation, whether it is journaling, whether it is staying sane, whether it is, doing what you want to do. Guys, my point is, the bad times are going to end. The good times are going to come. What will you do to prep yourself for the good times? There is a cusp of the academia worldwide which has been doing some, some contemporary literature, not very old literature, but some literature has come up. It's not the mainstream literature, but there is some literature that is available today. Some academia is focusing on it, that, businesses, the reason to exist for a business, for a government, for an academia, for a professor, I think the key reason for any profession, you take any profession, media, jurisprudence, any profession, the philosophy in the earlier times was, you needed to do well in life. People were driven by doing well for themselves. I think there's a shift that has taken place, a very quiet shift that has taken place, and I think this phenomena of COVID is going to rocket that shift, which is not just about doing well for myself. I think we will exist because we are doing good, for doing well for myself and doing good for not just the society, but also for the planet. So the contemporary literature, some, business studies, academia is talking about triple bottom lines these days. Self, the financial bottom line, and the social bottom line, and the universal bottom line. I think it's going to be a very important question. This question is going to come in the middle, from the cusp of the conversations, the dialogues. It's going to come into the mainstream, that you need to invest, you need to be invested in, planetary solutions, social solutions, while you create a business for making financial profits. So I think what is very important is for you guys to understand that doing good is going to be the reason why you guys will succeed in your generation. My generation could get by doing well. If I did well, if I earned a big wage, if I earned a big bonus, my friends, my peer group, my parents, my relatives, everyone was, Vivek's doing well. But I think it's going to change. The question that we are going to be asked, and I think Kshiti asked that question. Was it Kshiti who asked that question? Is the government doing enough? I'm saying, are the governments doing enough? But it's going to be not just governments doing enough. It's going to be, are businesses doing enough? Is the Supreme Court doing enough? Is the bureaucracy doing enough? Is the academia doing enough? Are the scientists doing enough? So for us to be invested to social profits and universal profits, and therefore have a business model which takes us to financial profits, great bottom lines, I think that is a great shift which is going to come into the center of the debate. I thought the World Economic Forum this time was already talking about it in a sense, but it was the, evening conversations. It was the, nice conversations in between, business deals. But I think the next World Economic Forum is going to look like the World Social Forum. We are going to ask, I think everyone is going to ask questions. We're going to be very happy about Zuckerberg buying 10% of Jio. But see, the smartest of our Indian businessmen, who ran a business of oil. He is divested from oil because oil is not going to sustain him through. Oil, fossil fuel is a dying business, is a business that's going to end in your lifetimes, if not in my lifetime. So my point, the point that I'm trying to make is you're going to live through these triple bottom lines. You guys are really sharp, smart people. Do you have the resilience? Do you have the tenacity? Do you have the spine, the strong spine to kind of go through the valleys, go through the dips of life? I think this is a great year. This 0 year is a great year to strengthen your emotional spine and your physical spine. I don't know how many of you have actually stayed hungry ever in your life. If my wife had allowed me to go, I wanted to actually embark on a Delhi to Agra walk along with the migrants, just to experience what it means to be in this fear, to be, in this without food, without enough food, to want to save myself from an unknown, phenomena, and to be seeking this security so desperately. I don't know if it was going to be fast steps or it was going to be tough steps. Was it going to be running towards home, or was it? But people embarked on a 1400 kilometer, 1000 kilometer, even Agra. It's 200 kilometers. It's not easy. I think I want to do this walk. I want to walk to Chandigarh with 100 rupees. Chandigarh is where my parents live. So I was thinking, should I, my wife didn't let me do it during that phase. But would it be a good idea to do a walk, a walk with 150 rupees and try to relive the journey of this migrant? Will it give me will it give me a different consciousness? Will it give me a different understanding? What does it mean to beg for food? We haven't experienced it. I asked my father, I said, Dad, why didn't you buy one additional property to, liquidate to make some money in your older years? He said, son, it would have compromised on your milk and your fruit and your Sunday chickens and your good life. My father was the son of a poor man. I am the son of a reasonably, not a poor man, but reasonably poor man. But you guys are invariably not children of poor people. How do you simulate? How do you build a consciousness? How do you do things in the next 1 year is my question. What do you do? You may not have been, my friend here wants to stay sane. My friend here wants to contribute. And what would you do to learn something else, to build a different consciousness, to create a new neural pathway? See, whatever you are doing, besides meditation, whether it is blogging, journaling, reading more books, you're only using a part of your brain. You're not using all parts of your brain. I think there's a problem with the academic nature of things. Indian college university system doesn't get you to exercise all your entire brain. It doesn't build you emotionally. It doesn't ask you who you are, why are you who you are, what do you want to be, what do you love to do. I think discovering that would be important. And to deal with the triple bottom lines, I think I'm going to introduce a new element for you. I'm going to introduce a word for you And that word is, how do you give service? How are you of service to the society and the planet, while you are of service to yourself and to your family and your job and your company? How do you learn to be giving a service? How do you, from an entitlement lens, from a doing, well lens, how do you shift to a doing good lens? I think the way to shift that is to become more service oriented. Often enough, we are hearing, these days we are hearing about the Gurdwaras and the Sikhs who are, setting up these langars. I don't know how many of you have been exposed to a Gurdwara. I'm not a deeply religious, in fact, I'm an irreligious person. I'm from an irreligious person, I've become an irreligious person. But, going to a Gurdwara, you will find people who are just being of service. People who are cleaning up, people who are, cooking, people who are doing stuff. Try doing that. How do you give service? You're smart, you're really super smart, you're capable for the best job, the McKinsey job, the Google job, all of that. But how do you shift your head? How do you start to imagine products and solutions and money-making methods for your employers that give service to the consumers, to the customers? Please understand that Reliance, Mukesh Ambani had never done a customer-centric business. Jio, for the first time, was their customer-centric business. It was very important for them to succeed. They had always worked on the cusp of policy. They created policy, they changed policy, they built, cartels. They paid their way through, the political bureaucratic leadership. But for the first time, they took a shift. They said, we have to learn to do a customer-centric business. Now, customer-centric businesses are fundamentally, is this service going to be of use to the customer, therefore she will buy? How do you turn in your head? How do you accentuate your heart to be focusing on service? Service as a business, service as a way of life, whether you are in business, whether you are in judiciary, whether you are in bureaucracy. Because citizens' movements today, like our young friend asked, Kshiti asked, what is the government doing? That question is being asked of the government, maybe in whispers today, but I know that the moment this COVID story is going to go a little, once the curve flattens, that question is going to come up. The opposition parties are not asking that question. Mamata Banerjee is asking the question only in the context of Calcutta and West Bengal. But, Amrinder Singh is saying, okay, we'll do what you say. Arvind Kejriwal is saying, okay, we'll listen to the center. Because nobody wants to take up this load of, I didn't get it right. So people are collaborating. But the moment this goes, the curve flattens, the questions are going to come up. There's going to be a new kind of a anti-CA kind of a protest. Anti-COVID protests are, I think, waiting to germinate. The question is, the citizenship is aware. The migrants experienced it when they were stuck in Delhi. Delhi government says, we served 1 crore, rations. I don't know. I have no way of auditing that. I was asking the plumber arrived today for the first time in my house. And I was asking him, he says, I have a chit, a parchi that has been given. Food rations, free rations will be available. He says they are giving these parchis for 10 days later. So his date is 5th of March. So 5th of March, he'll go to the ration shop and pick up his free rations. So the point is, people are aware. The migrant who was stuck is aware. The migrant who arrived in Patna is aware. The migrant who arrived in Patna but could not reach Begusarai is aware. I think the game is changing. There are significant shifts that are taking place, that have taken place. How do you become service oriented? I think, how do you give service? What do you do? What percentage of your time do you go and give service? How much time do you spend among the constituencies which require service? How does the migrant think? You guys didn't start walking for 1,000 kilometers or 200 kilometers, but the migrants did start walking. How do they think? So what does the customer want? What is the customer way of thinking? I think you and I don't know enough. I used to know because I used to hang out in the grassroots quite extensively, till a few years ago. Now I don't, frankly. So even I am out of touch. I engage with young people to understand who are probably more grassroots than I am. The question the 4 or 5 things that I'm throwing at you is, guys, make it a learning year. Now, learning is edX and MOOCs is learning. Learning is interviewing migrants, interviewing people, talking to people. But, talking to people, if you don't have empathy, how do you talk to people? How do you understand what challenges they face? I mean, interviewing is a mental process. The best interviewers on television are interviewing from the head. How do you interview from the heart? How do you cry with a person who's experiencing her own situations? How do you engage with that person? How does your heart connect to that person? Then what do you do for that person? I think this is a good time to practice. The impact of COVID is not going in a hurry. So please, guys who want to contribute, I'm saying stay safe today. Figure out how you can contribute over the phone. What can you do over the phone? What can you do over social media? What can you do by writing blogs and journals? But my point is, when the curve has flattened a little, go and engage, hear the heartful pain and cries in Begusarai and Chandni Chowk and Azadpur. Listen to them, but I said, please be safe and don't catch the virus, please. Stay safe, but hear people, listen to them, understand how their minds operate. So I'm saying this is a learning year. I think my friend who's doing some meditation, I think empathy requires for reflections. Reflections are only possible when you are more in tune with yourself. How do you become in tune with yourself? There are various things. I belong to Vipassana school. I'm saying enforce silences upon yourself. When you enforce silences, your mind goes into, yap, yap, yap. You're not speaking, but your mind talks. There's a mind chatter. But when the mind listens, when the mind figures out that, I'm chattering, but you're not articulating it, you're not speaking, after a while, the mind also quietens. Of course, it takes quite a bit of quiet to reach that stage. I'm saying enforce some silences, enforce some reflections, listen to the customers, listen to the community, listen to people, learn from them. learn online. Please do not stop. What are the is R the language? Is C++ the language? Is Python going to be the thing of the future? Understanding culture, understanding history, whatever you want to list, whatever you want to learn, photography and what have you, flattening the middle, lagawing pochas, whatever you want to do. But I'm saying, and bring some discipline, do a bunch of things, use this 1 year to use other parts of your brain, the front part of the brain, the rear part of the brain. Develop some empathy, because empathy is the key thing to understanding the customer, is the key thing to shift you from an entitlement approach to a service approach. Unless you do not have service approach, I'm saying 21st century is not going to be very kind to people who come with entitlements as the important question, as the most important thing for myself. How do I contribute to self, of course, but the society and the planet? So these shifts, how do you make them? I think make your own personal curriculum. You want to walk up to, you want to trek to Machu Picchu or Himalayas. You want to go and teach children. You want to go and do stuff in a village. I'm saying become a barber, learn to cut hair. I'm saying 21, 22, when the narrative is when the markets are going to shift, when the things are going to improve, when India is heading towards 6.5, hopefully there'll be FDI, blah, 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 I don't know. When times are better, what did you do during this year? I think that's going to be the key story in your SOP. The most important story that you will tell in your application in 2021 or December of 2020 is going to be, I spent the last 9 months learning, doing, experimenting. I'm not saying startups, but maybe you can collaborate. Bunch of you can start something. I don't know if it is true, but I received a forward. Jack Ma is saying most important in 2020 in the next 1 year. He's saying don't have any dreams, don't make any plans. He says survive 2020. I'm saying that might be for startups. Survive 2020, enjoy 2020, learn in 2020, make new experiments, small experiments, and tell in 2021 what a great year you had. I don't know if this makes sense or not. 6:59, Chetna. I think I have been very punctual. Do we have time for some interaction? Chetna,
We
unmute.
can spare around 5-10 minutes for questions if there are.
Guys, over to you. I don't know if it made sense. I like to have an hour and a half, but I got only probably less than 35-40 minutes. But that's all right. I don't know if I made any sense. If it's a this or a this or a this. Sorry if it is a this. Sorry on a Saturday. Today is Saturday, or what day is today?
It's a Saturday.
Well, I think it's today. We've lost count of Fridays and Saturdays. It's only today. So yeah, anyone? Sorry on a Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m. It was a boring evening. But if you have anything to share, what are you thinking right now? If there's an important question, if any of your questions have been answered, I don't know. Over to you. Let me hear you guys for another 4-5 minutes.
I really like your take on this because you didn't try to predict trends, financial trends, market trends, and you focused, and neither did you go into a lot of theoretical self-care tips. You just gave us a big picture and a realistic picture, which I really appreciate because this is doable and this is actually something that we can really embrace. And we all knew that deep within, but the way you put it, like when things are better, how will you look back at this time? That really put it together. And especially the part about how the game changes. Like now everyone knows how the system is and how weak the system is. And this is a way to think more critically.
Thank you, Anupriya. Was that Anupriya? No, I don't know.
Yeah, that was me, Anupriya.
Okay. Anyone else, guys?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a very quick question. When you were talking about the part of service and how we should actively get into it, I've been seeing this trend, and when I've been talking to my grandma and even dad, how there were situations in the past where there was a sense of service, but the service that we have today is very different because today a lot of people are involved in services like fundraisers and collecting funds, and it's more or less financially in most times. But in the past that I've been hearing, it's more like going and delivering stuff, and I don't know why is this thing happening, and do you have some insights to that?
Doing versus, you're saying going out there and doing stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, like, why has the trend of service, simply become more like uh, indirectly contributing versus directly contributing?
I have a theory. My theory is, my generation, we were children of poor people. Children of poor people can only think about, saving for themselves. I think today we are not in that poverty. I don't have to really, I and my wife have been talking. You know, we figured out that life actually can be lived with so little. Anyway, being Spartan is not what the point that I'm trying to make is that you are not working because you need to raise the money for your bread on the table. I think the reason your generation is working is to get mental stimulus, intellectual stimulus, peer group, Oscar's village, the trappings of modernism, Goa, Thailand, and what have you. I think your world is different. You are less insecure. These are less insecure times. My favorite guy, what's his name? You are in it. You are existing in times. What's that book? Enlightenment Now. You exist in times when there is enough food grain on the planet. The reason for war is over. It's just our old reptilian brain which continues to be insecure. Otherwise, the reason for insecurity is over. There's food on the plate. I mean, food is not a challenge. So I think cultivating hobbies is possible today, and giving service is possible today. Your father was probably, just on, your parents were, just focused on making sure that they raised you and they raised you with enough. And then, they got their EMIs and they got their, condominiums or minimum apartments. I don't know what ecosystems you come from, economic systems you come from. But really today, I think it's possible because there is food on the table. So a lot of things are possible. And then there is a grandmother who's still around to tell you the narrative of giving service. Unfortunately, in 20 years, that generation will be gone. And I don't know who will tell those stories. Because, 60-year-olds were raised very differently. People who were, born in the 60s and the 50s were raised very differently. And they were products of the independent India, resilient India, opening India, but people who were born before that definitely saw differently, thought differently. So my sense is you guys are in better times. You have to just rearrange the food on the planet. You don't have to create the food for the planet. There's enough food on the planet. There's enough knowledge on the planet. Never before in the life of this planet we've had so much of democratization of knowledge. So I think you guys can do some of these things. If you listen to your hearts, if you listen to your inner voices. Anyone else?
Good evening, sir. My question is actually from the bit where you spoke about the Gurudwaras and the Sikh community coming together to be of service to the community around them. And that got me thinking that is it possible that some societies like the Indian society has a cultural history of seva, which puts us on a better footing in order to come together irrespective of classes, just for the simple act of serving another? And does that also give us more cultural ammunition to do better in terms of being service providers in the future?
Yes, certainly. Certainly. Osho used to say that if you train your child to be nice to your gardeners and to your drivers and to your, staff, and I promise you, he will not throw you out of the house. I think there's a lot of merit in what you are saying. We have half a training to be useful to the society. It's just that we haven't practiced it hard. You have to be able to make a practice out of it, and then to be able to make a group of people out of it, and then to be able to similarly thinking group of people giving service and being able to debrief about it. Because if you debrief with your grandmother, she won't have a grand debrief. She'll say, oh, ऐसे ही है, मैं तो ऐसे ही करती हूँ. पुत्र जी, मैं तो सारी उम्र इतना ही कीता हैगा. That's what she will tell you. But I think you will have to engage with 10 stupid people like me who've not done enough service. 10 enough stupid people like you, and to be able to debrief. What does it do to your heart? My wife, her father had a very bad ailment once upon a time, and she was gone for 3 months. And during that time, I was like, there were days when I felt, I used to tell her, come back. And she was like, I have to get my father back on his feet 100% before I come. So one day, I was walking towards my house, and there was a beggar at the Panchsheel at the Golden Dragon traffic light. And he looked at me and he said, Bahu kuch de ja. I was actually carrying half a bottle of booze in my satchel. So I said, Lega? He says, Bahu maja aa jayega. मैंने कहा मेरे साथ पिएगा? He says, हाँ बहुत मजा आ जाएगा. You won't believe it. That beggar and I drank. I went across and I picked up some chakna. I got some disposable glasses, and we both sat on the, some different neurons fired in my head that day. I'm saying, what are you practicing which is different? which will create a new neural pathway in your head. 99% of your life is a repetition of what you already know. I think what you are saying is beautiful. We as Indians have been trained by our grandparent, have been trained by society, by a teacher, by the proximity to the poverty that exists hand in glove with us. I'm saying put it into practice. Find 40 different practices to be service oriented. You know, that guy, that beggar got drunk and I got drunk, and then, you know, we talked and we laughed, and, you know, then I told him, you know, I'm going to call my wife. He spoke to my wife. I mean, you know, it was hilarious. It's a memory. I'm saying create these memories, create these neural pathways, exercise different muscles, exercise new muscles. I think you've given the answer. I'm only reinforcing it. Guys, anyone else? Yes? No one? Okay, great.
Is this like the pressure of the last question?
No. I mean, I can continue for another half an hour.
No, I'm just checking with the participants.
I don't know if Chetna will permit us the audacity. I'm quite okay to continue.
I have something to say. You mentioned that when there's a storm, sometimes you resisting the storms in such a panicky way can itself make it worse and reduce your chances of surviving. And the storm itself takes you to, like, when it ends, it itself moves things in a way that they kind of work out, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then you said that when all this ends, or when we're in the new world, so and then things are good. So is there an assumption here that when the pandemic subsides, or, you know, when the herd immunity is there or something like that, there'll be a whole new economy to deal with? And let's say I had A, B, C career goals, and now they're even harder to achieve because the competition's more, or I'm competing with even more experienced people, fresh grads, etc. Like what if it's worse? And I'm sure that
You can imagine what if it is worse, or you can prepare for the worst and imagine and live for great times. You know, prepare for the worst, and, you know, there's some such
yeah,
something like that. Prepare for the worst. But you know, I'm saying if you have a robust year zero year, nothing is going to stop you. Please understand, the entire world is going to be service oriented for the next 3 to 5 years.
Really?
That's a fact. Even Trump will have to be service oriented. I mean, sorry, I don't know if I have hurt anyone's political ideologies, but I'm saying everyone, the world is going to be service oriented. The world is going, people like me who are service oriented, people like me who worked with people like you, you know, the world thought that we were the losers, but I'm telling you, the world is going to appreciate us much more. Markets are going to appreciate us. Please read some contemporary literature around triple bottom lines. Silicon Valley is a bit of an example. Of course, it sells to the Wall Street guys, but only businesses which service people are going to be valid. There is enough research that is available today. Businesses which made an ass of the customer are going to die out. They were dying out. 21st century, thanks to technology, thanks to knowledge, thanks to Google, thanks to smartphones, thanks to 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, I think power is going to come to people. I think education is already changed in the last 8 weeks. I think banking is going to change. Chandigarh has a special part of Sector 17, which is the main bazaar, main commercial hub, which was called the Bank Square. Bank squares have been empty in the last 3 years. There is no reason why people will have bank branches. I don't know when was the last time you went to a bank branch. I don't remember when I last went there. I'm saying banks will stop operating branches or reduce branches. They will become more customer focused. They will lend more to people who need more, as against the earlier, lending to the rich, and so on and so forth. I think there is a game changer moment in the life of the planet. That's my optimism. I don't know. I'll be wrong. Probably you can write to me or take my phone number from Chetna after 1 year and, hurl some abuses on WhatsApp. I mean, I'll plead guilty.
So many non-profit sector, development sector kind of webinars that were actually talking about how, because the sector doesn't make any of its own money and is dependent on donor funding and aid, those donors will also run dry because their stocks are down and so on.
They have run dry. They
So,
won't.
जब funding नहीं आएगी, then how will a sector which runs on funding run, right? And that's where the service in terms of this sector.
Boss, markets are going to be, please understand, government has to be citizen-centric. Business has to be customer-centric. Social has to be, community-centric. I think fundamentally there are going to be shifts. Social, the skills that we acquire in the social sector, I'm saying those skills are going to be valued by the markets. Currently, you are looking at impact career as NGO career. I am saying look at impact career. Do not look at NGO career. How to make impact.
Yeah.
It shifts the game. If Bindi and Chetna permitting, I can do a separate session on impact careers versus NGO careers. I'm saying stop thinking NGO careers.
That would be great.
Start thinking impact.
Yeah.
And impact is possible in 1,000 different ways, and not just as foundation, CSR, NGO, etc.
That's really helpful. Yeah, that's a good thought exercise.
Markets will be impact oriented. Markets will be customer oriented. Not in a hurry, but I think that shift is taking place.
Thank you. That answers my question for sure.
Anyone else?
So I had a question related to that. A lot of CSR companies are now being seen cutting workforce.
Yeah.
And the simple fact that something that is supposed to be of service to others or to the community is now not even able to service its own employees. How will that reflect on the sector?
Because there'll be so much of harakiri in the short run. There'll be so much of market in the short run. You can't even imagine. And the gloves will be off, the sabers will be off. Out of the will be out. You don't even know the nature of. We can't even comprehend what's going to happen in the next 12 months. I am saying you guys are 25-year-olds or less. You have a 30-year work runway. Look at your 30 years, look at your 10 years, look at your 5 years, don't look at your next year. CSRs, I'm telling you, 1920 was a reasonably bad year, but CSRs continued to invest whatever they had. Then COVID came at the end of the financial year and everything crashed. So profits crashed. So lot of CSRs which had already spent what they had to, they held back what they had. Then Prime Minister Care Fund took away some of that because corporates wanted to queue up with their 25 crore, 50 crore, 100 crore, 1000 crore. People wanted to contribute to the PM kitty. That took away some part of their deployments. And they didn't give that money from their pocket. They cut the CSR budgets and, reapportioned that money towards the PM fund. So I'm saying 2020, so 1920 was bad. 2021, there's going to be very little profit. If you survive is good enough. So there's going to be no CSR allocations. 21, 22 is when markets will begin to bounce back. So 23 is the earliest when there's going to be significant funding or reasonable funding available. I'm saying in these times, do your internships, do your learnings through heart, head, and limb, create your CVs, create the impact that you can so that you become valid when the market pops up. Is it going to pop up in 2021? I'm saying not sure, not definitely not. 21, 22, it's going to perk up. Yes, you will get less wage probably. Because profits are low, good times are low, top lines are low, bottom lines are low, you'll get lesser wage. But I'm saying important thing is to launch. Trust me, 10 years later, you will laugh about it. You will thank someone for having given you this start. Because I learned so much, I learned to be resilient, I learned to empathize, I learned to, be of service. I learned to be valid. So I'm saying 10 years later, yes, probably you can ping me if I am alive, if herd immunity kind of, helps me. Trust me, in 10 years later, you will laugh about your fears today. And I'm saying your fears are very valid. I'm not saying, put them under the carpet. I'm not saying that. Your fears are extremely valid. I don't know if this contradiction makes sense or not.
It does, sir. Thank you so much for your answer.
I hate to be the one to initiate this because I certainly wish for the session to go on, but we have some commitments to the IT department as well. So thank you so much, Vivek, for creating this robust and rich space for us. I learned a lot from this discussion, and it was certainly very insightful and gave me personally a huge shift in perspective about looking at the current situation that we all are finding ourselves in. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
1 minute, please. Can we have 1 minute?
Sure. Go ahead.
How is everyone feeling? One word expression. Everyone, one word. How am I feeling? Before we go.
More optimistic.
Motivated.
More?
Motivated.
Motivated, okay.
Grateful.
Relaxed.
Okay.
Inspired.
Wow. Thank you. Anyone else?
Nostalgic and inspired both.
Okay. Guys, I'm grateful in this times of mild personal lockdown, getting this opportunity. Thank you, Chetna. Thank you, Bindi. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for this opportunity. I am grateful I got a chance to interact with you guys. Hopefully bump into you guys in better times, which are around the bend. All the best, guys. Have fun. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek.
Bye, 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 bye. Chetna, shall I end meeting? Pause?
Yes, you can end.